Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 125th Right and Left Discussion Forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political discussion. We hope it stays that way today because we're changing our format to engage in a venting of our pet peeves on the part of the panel. Each panelist has composed a list, I hope, a list of things that really bug them, and we'll take turns sharing them in a very civilized manner. To keep things orderly, our panelists will each share one peeve, and after discussion, we'll go on to the next panelist. We will repeat this process until everyone has gotten everything out of their system. Okay?
How much time we have?
Today's panel, beginning on my left, is Dr. Ronald Chamberlin, retired senior research chemist. On his left is Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services. On his left is Patty Haskins, member of the Wadsworth City Council. And on her left is Tom Finley, co-founder of the Great Lakes Resource Center. One of these days when Tom's here, I'm going to give a longer introduction to him. He's got a very, very interesting, if not tattered, past, including being the conqueror of Mount Kilimanjaro. Ron, starting with you, I'm sure you've got some things that you can share. Fire away.
You mean besides the president, the administration, and the Republican Party?
Oh, damn, it didn't take long, did it?
No, something that has bothered me for years and years, and that is the amount of intellectualism and anti-scientific thought in this that we see in our society. And I have three scientific theories that I would like to bring up as time permits. I'll just enumerate them. The first thing, though, is I think in general, folks don't have a misunderstanding of what is meant by a scientific theory. People say, oh, it's just a theory. They'll change it next week. Well, yeah. A theory is the best possible explanation for the facts and data as they are known. If new facts and data come out, the theory's got to accommodate that and be changed to accommodate it, and perhaps even be turned around completely. That's the way it works. So these three are, in my universe, the theory of evolution, the theory that human sexuality has a biological and possibly genetic basis, and the theory that there is an anthropogenic reason for observed climatic change, warming in this case. I'll go into as many of those as I have time for as we go around here. We've looked at the third one certainly a couple of times here, and it's worth opinioning. So what happens with a theory is that it's formulated because folks come from many avenues, many explanations, many thoughts, many areas of research, different ways, and come to the same conclusions. This gives you a high probability that what they're seeing is true, that the theory is really explaining what's going on. So, and the final thing about that is that in general, folks are preying on fears of this in some ways. I saw an ad recently. It was for some sort of baby oil product that you put in your skin, and it's supposed to repel mosquitoes. And the ad says, contains no chemicals. Now, you and I are chemicals, your tomato sandwich is chemicals, your Aunt Harry is parakeet, and the person sits on her chemicals. So that bugs me as a professional retired chemist. So, continue.
Well, so, I mean, I was sort of expecting the grocery cart in the parking space sort of thing, but
no.
I do want to, no, wait a minute, I got to think about this for a moment. No, it would take too long. Okay. I'll let you off the hook.
Is it my turn?
Brian.
So I have a quote by Thomas Sowell that basically explains how I feel about certain things, and I'll just read that and we can start from there. Some of the most vocal critics of the way things are being done are people who have done nothing themselves and whose only contributions to society are their complaints and moral exhibitionism. There are a lot of people that do nothing. They don't get involved in anything in the community or in anything. They don't get involved in a service organization. They don't get involved in a church. They don't get involved in something like this. They don't get involved in anything that would further the good of their community. And that could be the village, that could be the city, that could be the state, you know, whatever that is. But they sit back and through social media drop these bombs on people that clearly show that they don't do anything, because they really are just complaining about things that if they would take a minute and think it through, or maybe put a call in to whoever they're complaining about, they could actually find out the answer. And social media has given these people a megaphone.
Anonymously.
Sometimes they're anonymous, and you get 3 people or 4 people, and next thing you know, it's on CNN. 4 people disagreed with Ivanka Trump kissing her child and showing a picture. I mean, it was they showed it. There were like 3 people on Twitter that were upset, and CNN ran a story that said basically, the world is coming to an end. She's offended this group of people, and really it was 3 people. And we see it even in our own little community here. When people get on Facebook, they get on Twitter, they get on different social media sites, and all they do is complain. They don't do anything. So, my mom used to say, when you're pointing the finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. Mm-hmm. And so, if you've got a complaint, get involved. I don't think any of us here have to sit here every other week and do this. We're all, we're all engaged in something, but you can't just throw, rocks at people about whatever. Pick a subject, but no solution.
Yeah,
no solution whatsoever. So that is my #1 pet peeve when it comes to, reading complaints about certain things, whatever it is. Most of the time, those people are not even involved. They're sitting on a couch somewhere and making a complaint, and they're not willing to be part of the solution.
And usually they're using some very ugly terms to describe the person they're complaining about.
Well, sure. And I look at this, we're trying to have these civil conversations. We might not agree with each other on certain things, but at least we're getting off the couch and we're participating in a dialogue. And if you're not willing to do that, and if you're not willing to listen to, how maybe that problem came to be, then I really have no use for you. Mm-hmm. I think that's the downside of social media. It gives these people that are just complainers. Sometimes I have to remind people, we don't live in Disney World. Because your neighbor walked by your house with his dog and it barked, and you got upset about it. Well, I'm sorry. We're a community, and it's not just here. Like I said, you can expand it to the city. You can expand it to the state. You can expand it to a national level. But that's my biggest complaint, my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah. Good one. Now I know why you brought this topic up to begin with.
There we go.
Get that.
Wait till I get my second.
Get that off your chest.
And we're not supposed to comment yet.
I feel better already.
No, you can comment if you'd like. No, that's good.
Well, I was just thinking, Brian, if there were some way that we could just validate this statistically, we'd find that most of them don't even vote.
Yeah, that was another thing. They don't.
That's going to be one of
Why bother to
don't
vote? It doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But boy, I'll tell you, I think that really that's the underbelly of social media. It gives these people a voice, and then you get 3 people that pile on, and all of a sudden it's an issue.
Particularly the opportunity for this Russian interference kind of thing. They call them trolls, but apparently this is a fairly small group of people that this has been traced to that have put all this stuff in, particularly during the election, but before and after.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Ron,
it's possible to do
easily.
it.
Yeah.
I wanted to comment on the points you were making too, and specifically relative to global warming, that we tend to be blame focused, looking for blame for all of that, when the growth of population is the driver of global warming. It connects right to the number of people caused. First of all, we're warm-bodied, therefore, but we demand things that cause heat. So,
like breathing.
breathing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Patty, you look stunned.
No, I'm not stunned. I'm never stunned. A lot of my complaints are very narrow. For number one, you're watching a news program, and the host brings on a guest to comment, and it's someone of a different political persuasion. And as soon as that person opens their mouth, the host interrupts them and yells at them. And that drives me crazy. No matter what station I'm watching, whether it is a liberal or a conservative station, when they bring on someone of the opposite political bent, I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear a civil discussion between them. That doesn't exist anymore.
There's only one place it does, and that's on PBS Nightly News.
Right, exactly. That's it. But you watch and some are so much worse than others. I mean, if you watch like a Sean Hannity, I can't watch that.
I feel the same way about Chris Matthews.
And Chris Matthews is on my list
Yeah.
as one that does that. Tucker Carlson.
He's probably the worst.
Jesse, he's off, and he's smug about it. And the whole cast of Fox and Friends. But if we can't learn anything and we can't have discussions unless we listen to one another, and that seems to be a lost art. We're so anxious to think about what we're going to say next and driving our point that we don't listen to what other people are saying and have a civil discussion, and consequently we end up with this divide in our country between people. And I think seeing that is a symptom of what's going on in our country right now. But I do yell at the TV a lot when that happens.
Do you really?
I really do. I like they're going to answer me,
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yes. When you first sent us the information on this, immediately mine sprung to mind. And I thought maybe I would validate. I'm the Lone Ranger in this kind of thing. So prior to our Sunday school classes, we have a kind of a forum like this where just anything goes. And I polled 10 people on what their pet peeve was. Never shared mine at all. 9 out of 10 had the same one. Interesting. And my pet peeve is the management of traffic laws in the state of Ohio as it relates to speeding. And the irony of this, when it came up, I thought, that probably is it. The next day, I got a speeding ticket on the way to Cleveland and Route 8.
Was that the most popular thing in your Sunday school classes?
Speeding?
Speeding.
Really?
Speeding laws. State of Ohio. I did not prep them or anything. I just asked. 9 out of 10 people focused on the way speed laws are being managed.
Well, that's a
Did they think they're
surprise.
too strict, or?
No, they're inconsistent. They don't make sense. And that's what they were, they were very vocal about their experiences, such as I will share here just in a second. But the
Interesting.
expected outcome of making the highways safer is just a farce relative to the speed laws because they contribute to it. The inconsistency of posted speeds have no reflection of weather. For instance, 55 mile an hour in fog is not a speed. It's safe, right?
Aren't you supposed to use some common sense about that?
Common sense says posted speed. Common sense would say when you're on Route 8, 7 o'clock in the morning, 3 lanes of traffic are all past the 55 mile an hour speed limit, which is posted in the Falls section only,
Right.
is crazy. First of all,
You get run
over.
You're going to get run over. You create a safety problem. And then in addition to that, here comes a patrolman, a policeman, into this melee. My task when I'm driving, I use the outside lane. I'm going to Cleveland. I run whatever the outside lane is running. I concentrate on keeping the distance around me, space enough. I didn't even see the policeman trying to tell me to pull over. And then after I figured this one out, I'm thinking, how in the world do I move through 2 lanes of traffic?
Where do you pull over there?
Yeah, okay. So you get that picture. And he said, Mr. Finley, you were doing 75 mile an hour. And I said, officer, I can't tell you what speed I was running. I was trying to keep the clear distance ahead. And he asked, of course, for my papers, and I gave them to him. And he spent 10 minutes, I'm not exaggerating, processing. I came back up and he said, Mr. Finley, you have expired plates. Okay. Now that could go into a whole other one. Long story short there, when I untangled that, now I got the ticket for unexpired plates, not speeding, which I had a question mark right away, and he says, I'm doing you a favor, it's much less fine. Untangling all of it, the License Bureau made a mistake in processing. I had a 2002 Lexus I sold a year ago. It was used as the information on the 210, and therefore,
So you
even
had
though I had a
current
sticker,
plates. So you had current plates.
I had a current sticker, yes. But,
The plate.
so I untangled all this. Now, I haven't called and found out what the ticket price is yet. If it's exorbitant, then I think I will make an appearance with my evidence
Good luck.
yeah, right. So, and I just give a couple of other instances that would show that this business of trying to control traffic, you might remember many years ago when Route 480 was opened,
Yeah.
and then to control speed, they had somebody's radars, if you will, on there. And they posted how many accidents had occurred in the past year, the increase in number of accidents, and that was the justification. Well, as it turned out, they left out the statistics that the amount of traffic on 480 almost doubled in that period of time. Therefore, there were fewer accidents when you looked at the statistics on it.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah, percentage-wise. So, just evidence of the fact that something needs to change relative to speed law management.
You wouldn't suggest that you completely remove speed limits?
Yes, I would.
Oh,
I would put up suggested safe speeds that are
well, technically
electronically.
that's what they are suggested.
Well, but
yeah.
not. But they're
Yeah.
not changed. Here's road conditions,
Yeah.
safe speeds. Here's something ahead, safe speed.
One thing that police tend to use on this is a term too fast for conditions.
Yeah.
So that if you're going 60 in a foggy day,
Yes.
that could be too fast for conditions.
And I agree with that.
yeah.
But that's not how the law.
Yeah.
So they're already making an interpretation, and rightfully so. So that comes under something else. If you choose to drive too fast, it's a reckless operation. It has anything to do with speed. It's judgment and your operation of the vehicle, which is where the laws should focus. But anyway, that's
I
my
won't be
pet
able to
peeve.
participate in this conversation because it might, on grounds that it might incriminate me. So I will not.
I'm thinking back to a time somebody told me Tom Finley is a radical. And I said, that is not true.
Are you revising your opinions?
Patty, in terms of your, it's already been validated that posting your current speed is the best way to reduce speed on highways. Post an expected
Oh, right,
speed,
and they do that.
and that's been
Yeah.
a validated study, and we continue to ignore it.
I'll blame it on the unions. Cops unions.
It's our
or
legislators,
something.
and which would lend me into my second
It's all
peeve.
those politicians.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It
You know,
even
when I-
goes back to Ron's initial one, because I was going to comment, the lack of rational thinking that takes place. We don't train our children in it, we don't see it in our leaders, we don't see it anywhere, using process to solve problems, make decisions and plans. I'd add that to Ron's.
Exactly, that's part of it.
When I first started thinking about this topic, I was going in a completely different direction. I don't really get angry that much. I'm always been puzzled by people who get angry on the highway. I don't understand road rage. I get on the highway and expect somebody to do something stupid every time, and I'm not
defensive
disappointed.
driving.
Yeah, and just there it goes. But there are some things that really do annoy me, and I suppose under the broad category of inconsiderate behavior on the part of people. And one of the first things that I think about is littering. I hate littering. We live near Hardesty Park in Akron, and my wife and I, when the weather's right, that's 7/10 of a mile on a track around there, and we'll do a couple of circuits and so forth. And that I pick up an awful lot of stuff. I mean, people just throw things any place. The lawn is filled with soft drink cups and Big Mac wrappers and all of that.
Yeah.
And the ones that really annoy me are the people that are within 5 feet of the refuse container and just toss it on the ground.
Yeah,
That bothers me. The other inconsiderate behavior.
there's a good thing.
People that don't have any consciousness of other people's space. For instance, you ever get on an escalator and ride to the top and the guy in front of you just stopped and looked around while all the other people have to work their way around the guy? He's at the top, or stand in front of the door of a crowded elevator. Now that stuff really burns my fanny. But I want to comment on Ron. There's science and then there's science. And that my feelings about science have to do with empiricism. I think that if you can examine it and observe it and it behaves a certain way and you can repeat the same thing over and over again, then you've got a scientific fact, or what will temporarily stand for one. Now, I'm not a scientist, you are. However, when I think how many times we inject politics into things that should be pure science, you mentioned global warming, and I'm sure that's one of them. Because when you look at
all three of those and many others have ramifications in the political scene and in the body politic, because legislation comes out, for and against this kind of thing, like trying to get the teaching of creationism, intelligent design into schools as a science, for example.
Yeah. We could talk about that for 2 weeks. But
Easily.
Let me just throw the climate change argument on the table. My feeling is there are too many people who look at a problem like climate change and want to blame it on somebody they don't like, which is the energy companies, and they will not listen to anything else. There is so little effort expended in trying to discover what natural causes might be of climate change. Don't even want to look at it. You're a radical conservative if you want to think that there might be something other than CO2, which incidentally, man-made CO2 is only 0.3%
Doesn't
of
matter how small it
all
is,
the
it's the way it
greenhouse
works.
Well, okay, well, I'd like to have that
It's the way
explained.
greenhouse gases work.
I'd like to have that
But I
explained.
think if you want to work on climate change and to prevent it from occurring, you have to deal with those factors that you can control. And things that are in nature that you can't change, they may be causing it as well, but you can't do anything about that. So let's concentrate on those actions that we can't have control over, that may be able to help the situation.
But I want to get back to empiricism. There is no empirical evidence that man-made CO2 is causing the chief cause of global warming. Granted, you're going to see an increase in man-made CO2 and an increase in temperature at the same time. That is not scientific proof.
No,
of
it is not.
anything.
It's a correlation, like cigarette
right.
smoking and cancer. It's a correlation.
Not causation.
But
yeah.
again,
I've had 3 friends die of lung cancer and none of them smoked.
okay, doesn't matter.
Well, anyway.
Doesn't matter. It's like climate and weather are different, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Tom's comment about there are more of us, so more of us, we require to heat our homes and run our cars,
just goes
so
on
we
and
generate
on.
carbon dioxide
Not
and
only
methane.
that, but we breathe.
Yeah, we
it
do.
just goes on and on.
And I know it's not polite, but we produce a lot of methane.
Produce a lot of methane, and that's
And,
very
and all
potent
the
climate
animals that
change.
we eat
The
do
cows.
that too before we eat them.
And the climate is warming, and methane is being released from the swamps and from the Alaskan tundra.
That's right.
And okay, what do we do? Euthanasia?
Take all the politics out of the discussion
Let's
and
take
make
the
it
politics.
purely scientific.
Yeah, but again, it has ramifications, because people say, well, if, as you say, if this isn't the main cause, to try to change it is going to be very, very expensive. Now, thinking about it, if we don't do anything about it, it's going to be even more expensive. There's a recent study, I just read some of it this morning. A fellow has done some computer modeling. He says, let's take Easter Island, for example. Here is an area where the original population is gone. The population crashed. They pretty much used up all the natural resources on that island. There are no trees on Easter Island.
They used them to roll the stones.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
They're gone, and their population crashed. And this guy does, and he takes temperature as a model for what might happen. There he comes up with 4 different causes of why populations might crash, and using up natural resources and overloading the environment with something
Yeah.
you can't control is one of those. And he says, you know, he's a doomsday prophet. He says, you know, it may all better be too late for us.
Could be.
I don't know.
I got one more that I wanted to lay out on the table.
I had one.
I have one.
I'll make it really quick. It's local. Those of you that have dogs, pick up after them.
Oh God! Yeah.
I did my own little survey. It seems as though people with larger dogs don't pick up. There's an ordinance. It's called the pooper scooper. Pick up after your dog. I mean, I'm tired of picking up after people's dogs as they walk by my lawn. You know, be considerate. Take a class. Take a class for your dog. They always talk about carrying a bag or 2 bags or 3 bags, or a grocery bag if you've got a big dog and you're walking it. But pick up after it, please.
Okay, let me just lay mine out. We've got 1 minute and 5 seconds left.
Oh,
Political humor. I can't stand it. Politicians or comedians who make a living insulting and degrading other people, particularly when they're doing it to our leaders. I just can't stand it. It's not funny. It's
You think it goes
ill-conceived.
beyond satire into vicious attacks?
Well, the satire is part of the humor that I'm talking about. That's the excuse that people give for being able to say really nasty things, and then be highly defended. Kathy Griffin, she thought she was really funny, holding what looked like a beheaded, decapitated portion of Donald Trump, and she was outraged that Trump complained about it.
Well, she apologized immediately.
She's
She's outraged now.
and then
yeah.
withdrew the apology.
Yeah, a year and a half later,
She
after
said that
she
president
went-
has picked on the wrong redhead. Well, he
That's-
hadn't
yeah,
picked
that's
on it.
been
Well,
recently.
I feel the same way about Jimmy Kimmel and Jay Leno.
Actually, I think they're hilarious. But
Well, thank you very much. I'm not going to give you a chance to explain that.
no, I love political humor. So.
I